Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. That's Gary Groob, and we have a very special guest in Alec Crepinsek. And Alec is also a former player and Georgia Swarm assistant coach. Alex, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Well, the first question we ask is because you were a player, I know I can ask this question. How did you pick up the stick?
So actually, I live in Ontario now and was born in Ontario, but when I think I was 3 or 4 years old, we moved out west to British Columbia. My dad was transferred out there for work. So I think for his sake and our family's sake, they were looking to get us all into some sports, myself, my sister, and then eventually my younger brothers as well. But we lived in Maple Ridge. I think he was walking around the mall and saw, try lacrosse for free kind of thing. And, he had never played lacrosse or knew much about it, but I think at the time the price was right. So that was kind of our first experience with getting into it. And so I played a few years in Maple Ridge for the Maple Ridge Burrards, and that's kind of where I got my start before we moved back to Ontario, where I kind of played the rest of my life.
It's a pretty good area for lacrosse, isn't it?
Yeah, the lower mainland in BC is huge. I mean, obviously Maple Ridge, but Coquitlam, New West, kind of everywhere else around there, Burnaby. But yeah, it was super popular in that area, similar to Southern Ontario, how it's super popular. Yeah, kind of here. But yeah, at the time it was I think either that or soccer, and I think he just decided to go with lacrosse at the time, and lucky for me, I stuck with it.
And fortunately, it's not that expensive to get started, right?
Yeah, I don't think at the time, because we were so young, there was like registration fee or anything. It was like, try lacrosse kind of thing. And yeah, other than that, you need a stick. And then I think I think at the time I was already playing hockey. So you already had, hockey helmet and gloves, which is, if you got one, you got both kind of thing, and you can do both. So that's always helpful for young kids as well. But yeah, I don't think it was really too much for us to kind of get into it at a young age.
The follow-up question is, what kept you in it?
I loved it right from the beginning. Yeah, I played pretty well every year from the time I was 4 years old until I finished playing when I was 34 or 35 a couple of years ago. So, yeah, I think it was, everything to do with team sports and being part of a team. And, I think for my family too, like my dad and my mom made so many good friends through it at a young age that it was kind of easy for us to stick with it and easy for them to want to stick with it. And yeah, to your point, like I was playing hockey and stuff at the time too, as a young guy. And, lacrosse was definitely at that time a fairly affordable option for kids that want to be involved in sports during the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Gary's going to dig into the past a little bit, and then we can talk about the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's go back a little bit to basically high school. And out in Oakville, St. Thomas Aquinas High School, you were doing a few sports there. You're doing football, hockey, basketball, and lacrosse. Were you using all the things you were learning from the other sports?
Yeah, I loved hockey. I really loved football. I never actually played basketball in high school, just in elementary school. But I love football. Football, obviously, physical sport. I played. It was a small high school. I think we only had like 20 guys on the team. So I was playing like running back, and then on defense, I was playing safety. When you tell like American guys you play with that I was like a running back and a safety, you get laughed at pretty quickly. But I love football too, physical sport, fun. I loved hockey. I played hockey up until I played AAA up until the I was 15 or 16, and then I just played high school for my last couple of years before I transitioned to just playing lacrosse. But yeah, I found obviously hockey transferable sport, hand-eye coordination and then football, physical sport, again, running. So you have to have speed, the sprinting, and then your ability to kind of read plays and read an offense when you're playing defense and read a defense when you're playing offense. But yeah, I was able to kind of use a little bit of both and use a little bit of everything. But as much as I love hockey and football, I definitely lacrosse was always my favorite. I was always most excited about playing lacrosse in the summer.
Right. And at that time, you were also in with Oakville playing Junior B.
Yep.
And you win the Founders Cup in your 1 year with the Buzz. Let's talk about that year because that's magical. To go and win the Cup is just absolutely cool.
It was cool, yeah. So I was a first year junior, so 16. There was a handful of guys from our midget team and a couple other guys from other midget teams that were able to play our first year for the junior B team, which is great, especially because it was like a heavily older team. There was 6 or 7 21-year-olds, a bunch of 20-year-olds, and then a few other older guys. But we were a really old team, and we were lucky enough to get set up on a really good team in Oakville. Yeah, it was a great year. I think we went undefeated in the regular season and lost 1 or 2 games in the playoffs, and that was it. But we had some fantastic players on the team. The time Brendan Fenhouse, who played a long time in the NLL from Buffalo and Boston, he was, I think, the leading scorer in the league. We had Drew Petkoff, who went on to have an NLL career. Dan McRae, obviously, who had a good long NLL career. Jordan McIntosh, he and I are the same age. So we played minor lacrosse our whole way up, and then junior lacrosse our whole way, and then obviously with the Swarm together, and actually at RIT as well. But so we were a really good team, and I think for us young guys, it was just kind of a great introduction into junior lacrosse, and they definitely weren't easy on us as a group with a lot of 21-year-olds, but it was a special year for sure, and it's definitely a year I still really cherish.
Right. Let's talk about jumping over to Burlington and Junior A, and the difference between Junior B and Junior A is monumental, and your adjustment in there.
Yeah, and I think again, we had a really young team those first couple of years. A lot of the guys from Oakville that were on the younger side moved to Burlington and Junior B. So our first year, we made the playoffs, and it was the first time Burlington had made the playoffs in 10 or 15 years or something like that. So a really long time. But yeah, the speed, the skill, the goaltending, everything is just a huge step up from Junior A to Junior B. And typically it's because you have a lot more older players playing Junior A.
Right.
But we were lucky enough to bring that core with us, or a lot of that core with us from the Oakville Buzz over to Burlington too. So it was great. And I wouldn't say an easy transition, because the first year, definitely, second year players playing against a lot of really talented, skilled guys. But, it was definitely great playing with that group of guys too.
Right. Now you were primarily a box guy, right?
Yep. I started, I played field. I think in my first year of field, I would have been like 11 or 12. And we would just play in the fall in the spring before the summer box season started. And then I played for like a travel team to try and get recruited in the States, Edge Lacrosse.
Right.
I was on the first ever Edge Lacrosse team, actually, the inaugural team. And then I was lucky enough to get recruited to play at RIT. So that's
where I'm going with this, is how did you get noticed when you're primarily a box guy? The Canadian way of things, obviously, is we play box on field. But
I was lucky enough. I played for Edge Lacrosse, so you do a bunch of tournaments. But I had a friend who was already attending RIT, Sean Gillies, who who was he's an Oakville guy as well, good friend. He played junior A in Orangeville, but his dad kind of put my name forward to the RIT guys and said, hey, maybe give this guy a look I mean, obviously I got some look playing for edge, but I think it was more so he put a really good word in with RIT, and then they kind of started the recruiting process and got me over there. I actually took a year off after high school because I just didn't have any colleges that were really, super into me at that time. And I wasn't really super interested in the places I did check out. And then when RIT came around, it was an easy commitment for me, especially because I already had some buddies there.
Right. And you guys had good teams because you won 3 conference championships in the 4 years you were there. So you guys really adjusted well to field.
Yeah. So at that time, my first year, we had one coach, the coach that recruited us. And then from my second year on, Jake Kuhn took over, who's still the coach now. And he kind of just changed the program altogether. Sean Wilkins, who's still the offensive coordinator, he's from Burlington, and someone we had known before. He actually played for the Burlington Chiefs for a long time. And then Jeff McKee, who was a defensive coordinator, he was an All-American at Navy in Syracuse growing up. So a fantastic lacrosse player, old school guy. But anyways, they came in and kind of changed the whole program around, started recruiting a lot of the Canadian players, and kind of gave RIT that identity of a team that was going to be, have a ton of really good, strong American players, but also lean on that Canadian talent for recruiting there too. And it's paid off. They've gone to win a couple national championships and countless conference titles, and they're always in the mix every year.
Right. Was this the first time you ever used the long stick, or did you do that before?
So actually, I played defensive midi most of my career.
Right.
So no long stick, which is tough position to play. You're getting worked on by the best midfield on the other team every night. But if anything, it made me a much better box lacrosse player, I found, because you really have to improve your footwork. You have to have really good footwork because you're at a big disadvantage playing defense infield. There's just so much space. So it was a tough position, but yeah, somebody's definitely got to do it, and it's a bit of a grinder position. But I had a blast doing it and really liked it.
Right, and you earned your respect by your positioning, your athleticism, and all that. So it worked out very well.
Yeah, definitely. It was tough at times, but I'm very grateful that I played that position because it did make me a much better indoor player for sure.
Right. Let's fast forward. We're going into NLL draft in 2012, first round, number 10 overall, and Minnesota picks you up. Now, what was told to you when they were drafting you? What their plans were for you?
So I had a pretty good summer that year. I was playing senior for Ajax, the Ajax Pickering Rock, and the team wasn't great, but it was a really great opportunity for me because I got to play so much. I was playing in kind of every scenario, and the way Senior A works is obviously there's so many NLL players playing Senior A, so you really get to improve if you're playing in those situations. So I had a pretty good summer. I never thought I was going to go in the first round. I went to the NLL Combine and met with a handful of teams there and talked to John. And he expressed some interest, but you still never know until the draft day rolls around. I think what was good for me is McIntosh, who I had told you about before. We had played together our whole lives, minor, junior, RIT. So he put in a good word for me. That year too, the Swarm had 4 first-round draft picks. I think we picked second, third, and fourth. So I think, at that 10 spot, I could, I just kind of fit in there. But yeah, it was, I think the expectation was to come in and, just play a good, solid defensive, steady role, and I did. I had a pretty decent first year. I moved down there. I lived there with Shane Jackson,
Mhm.
a bunch of other guys. Jordan McIntosh lived down there as well. I think there was 8 or 9 of us at the time that were living in Minnesota. So it was incredible experience to kind of move to market and fully embrace that. We coached at a high school. They would set us up with a ton of appearances and stuff to do during the week, and then you get to really focus on just being an athlete for a couple of years, which is it's not necessarily easy to do. I know a lot of guys can do it in the NLL, but I could get away with it while I was young and didn't have to start working in the real world yet. But it was a fantastic experience. I loved playing there, and we had a great group of guys and pretty good first year as well.
Right. One of my favorite questions to ask is your very first training camp. Was it what you expected?
It was tough. It was tough, and it was probably tougher than training camps are now, maybe. We had, before training camp started that year, we had a rookie camp the day before training camp. I can't remember if it was 2 days or 1 day. So we had at least, 2 sessions. It might have been 3 sessions before our first actual day of training camp. So we rolled into day 1 of training camp after doing a full day of rookie camp, which was, you're already a little bit behind the 8 ball. But I remember at the time on the Swarm, we were a pretty veteran team. A mix of, again, a lot of young guys, but some great veterans on the team with Crawford and Banesh, and then some older guys, Jeff Gilbert, Andrew Watt, Mitch Belisle, Greg Downing, a bunch of other great players. But I just remember having that rookie camp the day before, and that first weekend being like, oh, this is pretty tough. But then by the time the second and third weekend rolled around, you settled a little more. That first weekend in training camp is always, obviously you want to start working on some structural and strategy stuff, but it's really a test to see what kind of shape everybody's in as well, and pushing guys to the limit. So that first weekend was definitely tough.
Right. Now, you were in Minnesota for a couple of years before the relocation to Georgia. You had a good fan base. There were good crowds, and they were really interactive with you guys.
Yeah. It was fun there. It was a cool city. I like Minnesota a lot. I lived there for 2 years and then commuted the third year. But we had a great setup in St. Paul. Winters are tough there. It's cold. It's like, I don't know, like 4 hours south of Winnipeg. So like freezing cold.
Yeah.
And they get a lot of snow, a lot of snow. But we had a blast there. Pretty good fan base. We had some success our first year. I think we lost in the semifinals to Rochester, and they went on to win the championship. But in that year, in the first round, we beat Toronto, who was like heavy favorite and first overall in the league, and we came in Toronto and crushed them the first round of playoffs. So it was a pretty cool experience there. We had pretty good fan base, and we had some success early on there. I really liked it. Really.
Right. I had John on the show, Arlotta, and we talked about the relocation, and really, he took a chance because there was nothing. Georgia had no idea what you guys were and how, but through time, through you guys, were able to build a fan base in there and to the organization it is now. Talk about going in there for the first time. Now, you left a fan base. You had 8,000 or 9,000 a game over Minnesota, and now you're coming into 800 or 900 really, and had to build from there.
Yeah. So what I will say is the very first game in Georgia was sold out crowd. Our inaugural game. So it was unbelievable. It was crazy. At times that first season it was tougher, right? To your point, we hadn't built the fan base up, but we had a pretty good season that first season. We lost in the first round of playoffs to New England. on a game we probably could have won. There were some bad calls at the end of the game. I think where the team really started to build some momentum was that second year, 2017, where we were really good. We were really good. We were exciting to watch. We were scoring a ton of goals, and the community was really starting to get involved. I think the Arladas and everybody involved with the Swarm has done a really good job, kind of building that family first kind of style fan base in Atlanta, and obviously, there's a lot to compete with in Atlanta, with football, basketball, baseball, everything else going on. But I think what the Swarm definitely has is a loyal fan base. The people that come continue to come, and whenever they bring people, they're sticking it out and
Right.
coming back too. So it gets better and better every year. And we I think definitely started to see the momentum in that second year, 2017.
Right, we'll throw in a championship too. I want to get into that year because that was just a magical year. You have the Thompsons, and they're all there, and they're all at their prime. You have a really good base on defense. You have Mike Poulin and net. You have a number of things working. But what a series! I was in Saskatchewan for that game too.
Oh, nice.
In fact, the goal was in front of me. I was sitting beside Evan Schemenauer, and it literally happened in front of me. And I want to get back because I even had Coach Keenan on talking about the play beforehand in regulation time.
Yeah.
That ties it up and sends it to overtime.
Yeah. So if you knew Eddie, you would know how. I'm sure you've met Eddie before, but he is super thorough on situational stuff. I mean, and he's not going to, I mean, there's no way you can get through every single situation in 3 or 4 weeks of training camp. But, by the time you reach that end of the season, it's almost a guarantee that we've at least walked through, if not practiced, every situation or every scenario that could possibly happen. Not only at the end of a half or the end of the game, but, realistically, any scenario you can think of, whether it's man short, man up situations, goalie in, goalie out. And that situation we had practiced, believe it or not. So, okay, here's the situation. What are we going to do if we're down a goal with 20 seconds left? Okay, here's what we're going to do if they keep their goalie in. Okay, here's what we're going to do if they pull their goalie. So they had pulled their goalie in that situation.
Yep.
And we had practiced that. I don't know if it was that week, but it had been sometime within that time frame leading up to the game. And believe it, it was executed. Maybe I don't know. If fate had something to do with the way the ball, the bounces as well, but it's definitely something we had walked through and worked on. And I think that was kind of, a microcosm of the team that year, and being, super detailed and Eddie being super detailed with all that stuff, and making sure we were always prepared for everything. But yeah, kind of crazy how it shook out either way.
Right. And overtime, it just played out exactly the way you would expect it to be. Wild and Miles, and, just an absolutely brilliant shot.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the cup is on the floor.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like, what a wild, 7 or 8 minutes probably, or 10 minutes. I still think about that game often. It was cool during COVID. I think everybody was looking for content and stuff to put out, but it was like the 5-year anniversary. So they set up a Zoom call for all the guys that played on the team to watch the game together. It was pretty cool, but yeah, it was wild the way it shook out, and kind of capped off, obviously, kind of a storybook ending to a great season.
Absolutely. Now, you spent a few years over in Georgia. You finished off your career with the Wings as a free agent, really your first time in free agency. and you move in with Paul Day. Now, it's after COVID, and it's after we get back to real life. Talk about going into Philadelphia and Paul Day and the team that he's created there. He's had some great teams on paper, it just hasn't really clicked for some reason, but they're fantastic teams.
Yeah, we had I love playing in Philly. Philly was such a it was such a different experience than playing in Georgia, right? Playing for Philadelphia. I had a blast. We had a great group of guys. The coaching staff I loved, and they did a great job with us. But I don't think it's like the years I was there. Couple bounces didn't go our way here and there. We lose a couple close games. We run into some injury trouble here and there too. That first year we make the playoffs for the first time and lose to San Diego in a game that, we could have had. They just we lost 10-8, 10, or maybe I think it was 9-8 maybe, and they scored an empty netter. But I guess I can only really speak to my time in Philadelphia and just how much I enjoyed playing there, and what a cool sports city. It's a pretty cool kind of area to play with the arena being right there, the baseball diamond and the football stadium being right all in the same parking lot. And the fans are great. The fans are honest. They're real fans. They'll tell you straight up what they think, which is interesting, but it was a pretty cool experience, and I really enjoyed my time there.
Most games are interesting there.
Yeah. But when you're winning, it's fantastic. When you're losing, it can be tougher, but when you're winning, it's great.
Uh-oh. I think Gary just went night-night.
Frozen?
Yeah, Gary's frozen.
I'm back.
There
we don't get along, so I only own second base of Russia Center, but they tend to do that to me. I was asking, how did you get involved in coaching originally?
When was my first year coaching? I got on with Burlington Junior A. I had coached a lot of like field edge lacrosse. I always did lacrosse camps growing up. But Burlington, a lot of my really close buddies had been involved with the team for a few years. Sean and Ken Gillies, and then Dan McRae had been involved for a while. And I kind of started hanging around when I stopped playing senior. I stopped playing senior when I was about 31, 32. I just, at that point kind of had enough. My body wasn't cooperating exactly like it should at the time. So I got into coaching. I don't know whether I think I just started showing up the one year, and then the next year kind of asked them and to see if I could get on the bench. And they were, I think for the most part, excited to have me, but that's kind of how I got into it. And we've had a ton of success there. With kind of culminating in 2023 winning the Minto Cup. It was cool, but that's kind of how I got my start. Just I was lucky enough to have a couple of my best buddies running the junior A team already, so it was an easy step.
It must be exciting for you now, because a number of those guys are now coming up into the NLL. A whole bunch, actually, yeah.
It's pretty cool this year. This year especially. Obviously, last year too. We had pick 3 in the draft last year, and it was either going to be Sam English or Michael Grace, who are both guys that I was lucky enough to coach, and both fantastic players. So that was pretty cool. And then this year, when you look at the first round, it's super exciting to see so many of those guys that are going to definitely go in the first couple of rounds of the draft. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see. And, I think Burlington's definitely going to have a good showing in the draft, not only this year, but the next couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the program is deep, right? And again, a big testament to you guys and the coaching staff have been able to mold a lot of these guys from being good players to being great players and draftable players.
Yeah, we kind of have an all hands on deck approach. So it's Dan has run the ship for a while there. He took last year off, and I was the head coach for a year, and then I actually took this year off to do some travel and stuff like that. But we're, even with those years off, we're all still involved in some capacity or another. The year we won the Minto Cup, we had Kevin Brownell on the bench running the O, Justin Wilson Kirby, who's been on the bench now for 3 or 4 years, who's a guy we grew up playing with, who was a fantastic player. Brett Hickey before that, and then now involved even before is MJ Kikabelt, who's been there, I think 4 years now, 3 or 4 years, who's a fantastic coach. He was a fantastic lacrosse player at RIT. He was an All-American. I think he won Player of the Year, Division III Player of the Year his senior year, and then spent some time playing in the NLL. So he's been on the bench for a few years now. And then also Bobby DeBrone, who's a guy we played junior with. He's coached Team Ontario. I think he's done Pee Wee and Bantam for Team Ontario, and just another fantastic guy. But yeah, I think we've just really done a good job of, including as many guys as possible and having all hands on deck, because, I mean, either way, the summer's busy, so you kind of need the support and need that many people involved that want to be involved. So yeah, we've been lucky in that regard.
Right,
Alex, what are the challenges of going, the transition from being a player to a coach? Looking back,
I think the one thing you get, I find as a player, whether you won or lost, sometimes you still had that like physical, like exertion, like you worked hard, you did something out there, right? Win or lost, you went out there, tried your hardest.
You left it on the floor.
You left it on the floor. As a coach, winning still feels the same. It's when you lose, I find it, you run through every scenario. You think about all the details. It's harder to let go, or it's harder to. You just feel worse. What I found when you lose when you're coaching, you feel it's a different feeling. So that's definitely been something I didn't really think about before I started coaching. But yeah, there's that. I mean, but you still get all the great stuff. You still get the locker room, still get to be involved with the team, and then obviously we're super lucky in both Georgia and when I was coaching in Burlington that we have such a great group of guys that are so easy to get along with and have fun with. So it's when you have that, it's like, that's the best part of it when you're involved in playing as well. So it's that makes the transition a lot easier.
I guess then the way to define it might be when you're a player, when you lose, you take a breath. When you're a coach, it seems the work starts as soon as you lose.
Definitely. You start, what could you have done different? What happened? Where were the breakdowns? Why did this work and this didn't work? But yeah, it's that physical side of it that you miss, right? Like, you didn't have it. Obviously you worked hard preparing, getting the guys ready, but that game day feels different after a loss than it did when I was a player, for sure.
Being a coach is a lot different because the macro view is so much wider.
Yeah.
There's a lot more going on that needs to be, to have you wrap your head around, as opposed to a player. It's what I did. The player does his part. I always joke about when teams fall apart, usually it's when players start trying to do the other player's job.
Yeah, right. So, exactly. And it's like, as a coach and observing that, you have to keep everybody on the right kind of path for that to have success. Yeah.
What's exciting is that with a bunch of you guys that was starting out in junior A coaching, most of you guys are now in the NLL coaching. Dan McRae made huge news today, being named the GM and head coach of Ottawa. You're in Georgia. Brett Hickey was an assistant to Ottawa. Now he's got his own gig also. So all you guys are moving all over the place and gaining steam in the NLL as coaches. How did you get into the Georgia Swarm as a coach?
So Yeah, it would have been, what year would that have been? 2023-24 season. I had signed to play with Philly. It didn't work out. I got released kind of at the very end of training camp, which was tough, right? Because everybody had already gone through training camp. So I didn't really have a chance to go try out, obviously, anywhere else. I had, there was a couple of feelers out there from other teams, but nothing concrete. At the time, I kind of got all the way into February, I think. February, maybe late January, early February. And I didn't, I hadn't landed anywhere on a team yet. And I got a call from Eddie, who it wasn't necessarily the call I was expecting, but it was a call asking if I wanted to come on board and help them. The big part of my role was, and still a huge part of my role, is to help with or kind of run the in-game video. So everything you see us running on the iPads, that's, initially was the biggest part of my role. And still is a huge, obviously, part of my role. But he had called me and asked if I wanted to come on board for the rest of the season, and be on the bench with them, mainly running that video. So yeah, I don't think it would have worked for me anywhere else, but, since I was super comfortable with obviously Eddie and Chai, who I had known forever. And then I was lucky enough to meet Andy Secor right away too. And we, we'd become good friends and we're roommates on the road. But yeah, it was kind of just, that's what happened. He gave me a call that year, see if I wanted to come on board. And I definitely thought I maybe could have still played that year, but when I looked at the opportunity, getting a chance, to coach with those guys on a team that I had played for and knew so many guys and really felt I could, be impactful and help the team that way. I was kind of all over it and super excited to come aboard. And yeah, obviously a little disappointed. My playing career was over, but there wasn't too much downtime before getting right into coaching, which I'm super grateful for. And, the coaching opportunities in the NLL don't just come around every day. So the fact I was able to get in with such an amazing staff and organization that I was super familiar with was, I felt super lucky to be involved.
Right. Was it awkward that guys you were teammates with, now you're telling them what to do?
No. It's, I think at that level, it's I can just hope I had their respect, and I think I did. And when you have the respect of some of those guys, again, I've talked about Mackie a lot, but being able to come in and know those guys and know what they're all about is I found it super helpful. And I'm not necessarily I wasn't beating guys down or being super negative anyways. It was more constructive and my opinion on where I thought we could improve on something sometimes. But it definitely took a little bit to get a little more open and a little more fluent with them. But if it was going to work anywhere, it was going to work with Georgia for sure, because I did know so many of those guys and had played with them and and best friends with a bunch of them, or I've known them for so long. So no, I don't think I would call it awkward, but yeah, it definitely took a while before it was, smoothed out, we'll call it.
Right. Well, let's fast forward now when you have rookies coming into camp. What's the first thing you will tell them, being with all your experience?
Yeah, I think, kind of any training camp is the cliche thing is to go out there and work hard and earn a spot, right? I think you look at the league now, the NLL, and just how competitive it is. The talent in the league is better than it's ever been, and there's so many good new players. You look at the next couple, last year's draft and then this draft and the draft coming up. I think it's not a guarantee that anyone's going to be in any position on any team anymore, right? So I think, for young guys to come in, it's about coming in, working hard, but working hard and fitting into the culture as well, and being a good teammate, right? I think the Swarm puts a lot of emphasis on bringing in character players and character people. So, obviously you want them to work on earning that spot, but doing it in a way that they kind of fit the values of our team and fit in that way first and foremost, even before fitting in as a player it's always been super important in the organization.
Right. Do you find the defenders have it more difficult now than when you came up?
More difficult now. In general, I don't know.
Because we had some great players that you guys had to defend against, just like we have guys like Teat and things like that now.
Yeah. I think it's the game's always changing, and there's a lot of stuff that teams do now that teams didn't do when I was playing or at the beginning of my career. So you look at, how an offense looks now compared to how an offense looks 10 or 12 years ago. It's completely different. But I'll say now, kids coming out of the draft and kids that have been in college for 4 years and kids that have been playing box lacrosse, like, they're so talented and so athletic now and bigger. It seems like kids are, I don't know, but like, our team is huge now. Guys are massive. I think I would have been the smallest guy on our team last year if I was still playing. And it's like, so I'll say that, like, I think guys coming out of the draft now are just super athletic and if a lot of them have, played lacrosse year round for a lot longer than guys did back then. There's so many new resources. You look at Southern Ontario having the ALL and the Rock Elite League that guys can play in all year round, right? That didn't really exist when I was growing up. And it just gives kids an opportunity to have their stick playing pretty good competitive lacrosse all year round, if that's what they want to do, right? So I think that kind of accessibility to lacrosse nowadays, when you look at certain facilities, I know there's a bunch of facilities in Ontario, there's a couple out west in Lower Mainland and British Columbia. So that resource and that kids being able to play year round has really taken those young guys to the next level, in my opinion.
Right. The developmental of prep schools also, things like Hill and some of the other ones out west, and incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great. It's great for the game, and definitely keeps some older guys on their toes, right? When you got great young rookies coming into, not only our training camp, but every training camp every year, right? And guys are definitely earning spots.
Right. Makes a lot of those old records, I think, safe, because guys aren't going to be playing into their 40s anymore. There's so many young, talented kids coming up.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely still guys that can, if you have the talent, you stay in shape, you can still do it. But yeah, it's just probably going to be a little harder here and there. But there's definitely still some old guys still doing it, which is great to see.
Absolutely. Let's fast forward now to State of the Union kind of things too. I know we're in the middle of the CBA thing, and we're trying to split atoms and trying to get everything just taken care of once and for all. Let's imagine that it's done. Do you think that we're on the verge of maybe it becoming more of a full-time gig for everybody?
Full-time, I don't know. I mean, I know that's been talked about for a long time, but like, I think it would have to be kind of like, I mean, I honestly am not educated on the business side end of things enough to know if it's feasible. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of guys would want to do it, but you got to be making obviously enough money to do it, and availability and things like that make it difficult. But I think obviously everybody would love to see that, but to say we're close, I really don't know, kind of that side of the business and that side of the
right.
that side of things. I think there's enough talent to do it, and probably enough young, good players to do it. But financially, I don't know. I honestly don't know if it makes sense or not yet for a while.
not that you would know, but what would be a sign that it would be possible, like something, a certain trend, a certain change? Is there something that would give you faith that the boys could get paid more of a full-time salary? What would it look like to you? Is there something that you'd want to see for it to make sense in your mind? Not a guarantee, but to make sense.
I think a big test is going to see what happens to professional lacrosse after the Olympics in 2028. How does the popularity grow? What does it look like? What does it look like after the Olympics? And is there that? Because I mean, lacrosse is still obviously growing and still popular, but what is the Olympics going to do, and how is that going to help our sport? And I think there's huge potential to kind of carry off that momentum, and do some big things with lacrosse. But before then, I think obviously the TV coverage the last couple of years have been great. You look at the playoffs the last couple of years and the coverage on TV. I know so many people that I work with say, "Hey, I saw the NLL finals on TV, flipping the channels. So I watched the whole game. It was unbelievable." So I think that's helping, and it's maybe not a massive overnight boom, but I think gradually that growth is starting to build, which is awesome.
So I guess what you'd be saying, and what I'm hearing about what you're saying, I agree, by the way, with what I think I'm hearing. The longer it's on TV, the longer it's out there for people to see, the more chance there is that there'll be more fans, and the more fans are going to be the trigger that help guys get paid.
100%. Yeah, that's everything, right? And at the end of the day, obviously it's a business, right? And those guys can't make a full-time, or everybody can't make a full-time wage unless we're getting that popularity and that exposure.
This might sound counterintuitive. Sorry, Gary, if I may. This may sound counterintuitive. It's almost as if when I give this a thought, I ask myself, well, what's wrong with the fans of lacrosse? And I keep saying to myself, they're the most dedicated, the most fanatical of any group of fans that I know, right? Because I've experienced them. I've seen other groups of fans, etc. I'm just wondering whether they need to grow a base of passive fans, like the people who just go because they enjoy the game, because of the game, not because they want to be a part of the drinking after the game or meeting the players. They just love the game. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
no, I understand what you're saying. More like
it's the place to be. It's the place to be, like that. By passive, I mean where people automatically go, "Oh, there's a lacrosse game tonight. Hey, why don't we go?" Like it's not the guy or the gals that go, "We gotta go." It's the people who just, there's a little trigger in their head. They go, "You know what? It's a cool game. I got a couple of bucks for that game. Let's go check it out."
Yeah, and I think the TV exposure helps with that for sure, right? People catch it on TV a couple weeks in a row on a Friday night, and they say, "You know what? This looks awesome. Why don't we go check a game out?" And then, everywhere in the league, you can get an affordable ticket. So I totally agree with you, and I think, again, that exposure level and things like the Olympics and the TV exposure should really help that in the next few years.
Yeah, the last point to sort of put a period at the end of that sentence, we all believe that if people go to a lacrosse game and see it in person, they're going to love it. We all believe that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's guaranteed.
Definitely. Well, we had Sakavitz on a couple of years ago, and what he was telling us at that point was basically we're at the NHL level from about 76, 76, 77, where we have the TV, we have the fan bases, we just haven't had that explosion yet.
Right.
And Olympics coming, 280 more countries watching. Now, granted, it's when we had Gertler on last week, and you're talking about, for a ball and a stick and whatever, and sixes is a different thing, but it's to get people to watch. And then we can teach them tradition and all the rest of that later. Once we get them hooked, then we're there.
100%. Yeah. I think the Olympics, and there's going to be so much media coverage around it, not only those 2 weeks or whatever it is of the Olympics, but everything that's going to be leading up to it, in and around the lacrosse world, I'm sure will be pretty cool, in 2027, 2028. And hopefully we start seeing some stuff. I mean, soon. The sooner the better to start hyping up the Olympics, in my opinion, because it's just such a big deal for the sport. Definitely the biggest deal, since I've played lacrosse or my lifetime. This is definitely the biggest thing for lacrosse we've got coming up.
Well, we've seen what has grown the other big sports: basketball, hockey, football. Even we've seen them go international, and that the interest, when the interest gets wider and more people know about the game, and you have like what they have right now. Lacrosse has some great world championships. It's just not a lot of people in those other countries yet. But as the Olympics come, it's almost as important to increase Canadian and U.S. interest, the European and the East getting stuff, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a part of it, and it's growing every year internationally, which is fantastic. But that should hopefully help with that exposure, and to your point, having that boom that really sets things off even a little more.
Yeah, I love the fact. I'll give hockey, because you played hockey. Team Canada. When you say that just amplifies interest.
Yeah.
The more interest there is in Team USA, Team Canada, Team Japan. Just keep naming the countries. The more interest there'll be, for fans to watch, because that extra little level of play, it helps promote the game.
Oh, for sure. And it just, to your point, brings people that weren't watching it or didn't know to watch it from other countries. It just brings them in because their country's involved too, which is awesome.
It's awesome. It's true.
Now, we talked about international, and Sean Killis, good friend of yours, friend of mine as well, but we do Prague together, and of course the Rebecki tournament. Is there a year maybe we can put the equipment back on you and get you out there? Once you go, you're never going to stop going.
I've always wanted to do it. I've told this to anybody that'll listen. I've wanted to do that. I said, as soon as I'm done playing, I want to go play in Prague for at least one tournament. Mm-hmm. But I didn't. I had 0 years off between playing and coaching. And I was like, and it always falls kind of in that first year or first round of playoffs in the NLL. So I hope I don't get a chance, to be honest with you.
True.
I hope to be playing in the playoffs every year. But as soon as I do, hopefully I don't, unless, the scheduling is different, but I would 100% be in. I've always wanted to.
Because I've been there a number of years now, and it's eye-opening when you're looking at European lacrosse, just how much it's grown just in the couple of years that I've been doing this.
Right. Yeah. No, I know it's pretty cool. And I've heard so many good things about that tournament. And, I think it's a great opportunity for networking and getting involved, with other countries as well. So, I've always wanted to do it. And I at some point I definitely will, but yeah, if it continues to be a conflict with NLL playoffs, then I hope I don't get to go for a long time.
Absolutely.
I understand your priority.
Yeah.
Now we're in the midst of the playoffs for summer ball, and you've played in both WLA and MSL. And I'm wondering, do you see the reason why WLA has such a hard time to overcome the MSL? Because it's been got to be 20 years since the WLA has won, even at home, and a lot longer since they've won it in the East.
Yeah, I feel like Victoria's got a Man Cup sometime in the last 10 years, maybe.
Yeah,
would be the most recent one. I don't know. There's a lot of talent in both British Columbia and Ontario. I think the Ontario teams, they do a good job loading up at the top because there is so much talent here, right? Like there's so many options. Obviously there's a lot of loaded teams in the West as well, but I feel like the talent's maybe a little more dispersed amongst the teams there. It's just, I think they're, Ontario being bigger and more populated, gives them that advantage to have more access to these players that want to play summer ball. And they do a good job loading those teams up, right, and building those championship teams.
Absolutely. We have a game 7 in about an hour. So
yeah, is it broadcast tonight?
It'll be, I believe, Stamp Black's.
Nice. Okay.
Snapper's YouTube channel will broadcast it because last night was just epic.
Oh yeah.
Tony scoring with 18 seconds left to tie it. Otherwise, Peterborough's gone, and scores the overtime goal a couple of minutes in. It's just incredible play.
So, yeah, I only saw the overtime goal, the highlight. I didn't see the game. How did he score the game tying goal?
Game tying goal was a quick stick with 18 seconds left of a Restaterra pass, and he had a hat trick in the third and overtime. So,
few crazy games in that arena this past week with the 2 Junior A games, Game 6 and. I think it was Game 4 that Whitby won? They scored late and then scored in overtime, or scored too late and then scored in overtime. So yeah, I guess a few crazy games there the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and they have another one coming up because OSL's got their Game 2 of the finals Saturday at 4. So that arena's being busy, especially with the OLA festival going on as well. So lots of stuff to take a look at. And the Presi's in there too the following week, right after Minto.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Absolutely. I really want to thank you for taking the time. And I know it's taken us a while to get it, but it's certainly been worthwhile. I'm so happy that you came on the show, and we've been able to pick your brain on a number of issues and, yesteryear and things like that and your insights. So thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, I had a blast, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
Awesome.
All right. Well, this concludes another great episode. And of course, this one was, of course, with Alex. Alex, thanks for doing this. Gary Groob, thanks for doing this. Candid Frank, glad to have been here for it. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.